So hello and welcome. In this video, we are actually going to go ahead and do worksheet number 4, applying value to the can. You're going to be able to find this worksheet in our understanding and applying value packet. And in this unit, we are learning about the drawing pencils, about graphite drawing pencils, what they do and how to understand, identify value and recreate that value. In these worksheets, first we did the sphere, now we're doing the can. If I flip the page, we're then going to tackle the eye. And in these worksheets, the process is the same. I'm asking you to identify value up top, observe that value and the different transitions that we're seeing, and then recreate the value you see in the image below where we just have the contour line. Okay, so for this assignment, there's already a video where I talk through the different ways to observe the value. I would encourage you to go watch that. The first thing you want to do is to go ahead and observe, right? And spend some quality time really getting to know your image. You're also going to want to pull over your value scale that has been printed out and cut out for you. And you can see that I've punched holes in the value scale so you can look, observe, and say like, okay, is that value a 3? And you can check it, right? So that value there, is it like a 2? Yeah, if you put the 3 on top, you're going to see it's too light. So this is a really good tool to help you identify, right, and observe. And then again, you're going to use your knowledge of the drawing pencils and create what you see down here. So in this video, I'm going to go ahead and do it, right? I'm going to use our materials. You're going to need your drawing pencils, all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. I also like to have a Ticonderoga pencil handy because we have that beautiful eraser on the back, and that's going to help me pull up some of these really skinny highlights that are happening there. I also want to have my normal Factus eraser I've given you, right? And a pencil sharpener to help me out. And then of course we're going to be needing to use some paper to help us, paper towel to help us blend. Okay, you can use your fingers, that's fine, but I like to use the paper to keep my hands clean and to really be able to move that graphite around. So go ahead and get out your supplies and you can work with me. Over the course of this video, I'm going to speed up some sections of it, so you'll see my hand move in double time, but I will slow it down in some areas to sort of talk through my thought process and my artistic process and how I've sort of tackled certain areas, because there's going to be some details along the way that I want to highlight for your attention. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. And the first thing, again, I want to do is observe what's going on. And I see overall on this can, it's at least a 2 sort of everywhere. I know that, like, I'm going to use this to point. I know that in some of these areas of highlight, it is a 2 on this printed image because this image printed a little dark, but I'm going to push some of these areas to a 1, like in here, that highlight, right? Some of these highlights in here, I'm going to push to be a 1. And then the 2s will sort of come together, but I can erase, right? So I'm going to pull everything in sort of like a value of a 2, blend it nice and soft, and then I'm going to start to build up my value over time, right? And add in my 3s, add in my 4s, add in my 5s as I go and blend. And then at the end, I'm going to grab my erasers, this team of erasers, and I'm going to pull up those values. All right. So I'm not sure how long this is going to take me, probably a couple class periods. You're going to see me maybe change clothes, or the video will pause and then resume. Don't be alarmed. It's just happening over multiple days. Okay. All right. Enjoy, and I will check in with you as we go. For my 2, I'm going to use maybe a 2B, right? That's something else that you're going to want to think of. Which pencils do I use is the biggest question that I get. Is which pencils do I use? You know, all of them? Yes, you're using all of them. So you're going to make a choice about which ones to use. I'm going to try out my 2B, and it's nice and soft, right? I'm going to get it going a little bit. It's nice and soft. This is going to be a good pencil to use to get it a light 2. I might not want to use a 6B because it goes so dark and it can't really get that 2, but I'll use my 2B pencil. And I'm going to sort of lay that in. So I've laid in my 2 overall, right, because it's my lightest value. I know I'm going to pull up some areas, but I'll worry about that later. I'm going to grab my paper towel and I'm going to wrap it around my finger, and then I'm going to work that graphite into the fibers of the paper to give me a really nice foundation of just sort of like a tone to work on. You can see I also dropped in the shadow on the ground, right? And I'm just going to blend that out a little bit. I'm not worrying about like going over the edge too much because again, I'm going to be able to erase that. Notice how I'm using my paper towel. I'm going like in circles, right? I'm really working the little bits of graphite into the paper. I'm also going side to side, especially around the edges here. Okay. Now I want to remind you that the graphite is being pulled up, right? I just pulled up some graphite on my paper towel. If I open it up, you can see it. So it lightened it a little bit. And I want to remind you of that because if you blend something that's really dark, it's going to lighten it. And you need to hit it again with some more value. All right, so now I'm going to start to go darker. I can continue to use my 2B pencil and I'm going to just start in an area. Maybe we'll start back here. I'm going to lay in some of these deeper tones just to sort of break it down a little bit. All of these lines here mean something, right? They're an edge. So that line here and this line here show me where this is coming in and where that is coming in, right? So if look, do you see these lines here? They all mean something. And they're general, you know, like in Sketchbook, Procreate, on the iPad, I just dropped this in and traced it essentially. But, you know, like you use them as a guide. And when you see a line, if I just put that over like that, that's wrong, right? I want to really observe what's happening and why. And right now I'm just using my 2B to sort of like sketch that in. I'm definitely going to need to go darker in a lot of these places, but at least it's going to help me start to build that graphite up. So here, I'm noticing that this area is darker than that, but they're both at least this 2.5 color. So I'm gonna just drop that in and then I'll make sure to observe that again later. I'm gonna avoid this because this is really bright, right? You see I avoided that too. But the more I look, the more I'm going to see. And the way you move your pencil really matters, right? I'm trying my best not to be too scratchy. I know I'm going to blend it again in a second, but I don't want to be too scratchy because it's going to be harder to blend later. So here I see a really hard edge. But over here, it sort of goes dark and then it fades out right there. So I'm gonna actually extend that darkness a little bit more because this is a little bit darker than that overall, and then I can build that up a little bit later with a different pencil. I see along this edge and along the top edge, leave a darkness. And the bottom, excuse me. Okay, so that's where I'm going to start with my 2B. I'm going to hit it with a little bit of blending. Still trying to avoid those light areas, but I just want them to be a little bit softer. All right, and now is when I'm actually going to use my favorite pencil, the 4B pencil. It's my favorite because it can really go dark when I need it to, and I'm going to start to build in my darknesses. I'm like sort of here, right? I'm going to jump and do 5s and like build it back a little bit. Where's my 5 in this picture? Well, here for sure, right? That deep dark center of this can, of this open can, that's going to go to a 5. So I can even use my 6B for that. And then I have a variety of darknesses sort of happening all over the place, right, in different degrees. So I'm going to use my 4B and modulate my pressure to sort of allow that darkness to happen and lighten up. And then I might go back with my 6B to do that. I'm actually going to use my 6B right away and go in really dark right here. Because I don't really have to worry about that. It's just going to go black and then it's just going to be there. Okay, now I'm switching over again to my 4B, and maybe I will, I don't know, start wherever I feel like it, right? That's what makes this kind of interesting. So maybe I'll start in here. And for that area, I'm going to switch again to my 6B. I'm going to drop in, like, look at that nice dark edge right here, right? And then I'm going to fade that out this way. But that 4B was important to sort of lay down to help establish that a little bit more. And I don't really need to blend. I can just sort of do it, right? If I am able to just do this with the pencil and be really gentle and really nice with the pencil, then I don't have to worry about blending, because blending is great, but again, it takes up that value, so it makes me have to do double work. I don't want to do double work. I'm already working hard. I'm going to hit this area with my 6B. And the biggest thing I see with people who are just starting out is that we're really afraid to go dark. And I don't blame them. It's scary, right? To go dark. And this feels really dark because everything else is really light all the way around. But I'll probably have to add more value for that later. But it's a good place to sort of like start. You know, you can always erase it. It's okay. So here I'm noticing it's far too light. I see a lightness, right? But this is far too light. So I'm just going to gently hit it with some value from the 4B. Gently hit it, right? Because I know I'm going to push all this stuff right here on the back of the can more. I'm going to push it darker. Same thing up here. I'm just going to like fade that in. I'm going to push some of that. So I sort of felt like I went a little too dark right here, so I'm going to use my eraser, but I'm going to pretend like I'm petting a little baby duckling or kitten, and I'm going to sort of like just dust it gently over and pull that up a little bit. Again, I'm not too worried about any of this right now. I'm just trying to lay in everything. So I'm not going crazy. I'm not going to try and be perfect right off the bat. That's not something that I want to do. Some people can work in one corner and then like finish that corner and then work throughout. I can't do that. I need to sort of get everything up to the same level and then refine and refine and refine. It's just a different process. It's the process that I like to teach, that process of refinement. Some people, it feels like it's few and far between, can, again, just start in a corner and refine that one corner to be exactly what it needs to be. I'm not one of those people. I'm sure it is possible to teach that, but again, I think most people like to see things in layers. This part in here is a little bit trickier because we have all these weirdo little lines, right? Really just looking for you to grab the gist of these areas. You don't have to go nuts and lose your mind over it. But I am looking for you to hit it with some value and not just like leave it blank, because that's not what's happening. All right, so now would be a good time to take a step back. In class, I would have you take this page and I would have you use this clip and clip it up to, I've got like magnetic boards, clip it on the board and then like really walk far away and see that. Unfortunately, we can't do that, right? When you're working independently, maybe at home for homework or something. But instead, I'm gonna stand up and I'm gonna look really far away. It's kind of nice to see in the camera above me where I sort of have to go darker. And it looks like I did start to go dark, but I'm just not quite dark enough. Now I want you to remember that this is graphite and it is shiny, so sometimes it's not going to be able to, like, look here. If I take that and I move it, do you see how sometimes it looks darker? Like that looks bright and then that looks darker, right? Because it's shiny. So if I move this around, you can sort of like see what's going on a little bit more. I'm going to work on blending this in a little bit more and darkening those areas up. And then we'll talk about how to grab those highlights back up. So when I go to blend, I just want to reiterate and remind you that it's pulling the graphite up, right? And I have this dark graphite on here now. I don't want to sweep it over the whole thing. That's going to be a nightmare, because then you're going to take all this darkness and throw it into all these areas, and that's just really not what we want, right? We want to keep those brighter areas brighter. But I'm going to pull, sort of push this into the paper a little bit harder. I'm not worrying about this edge right now, right? I'm going to clean that up in just a little bit when I'm done. Right, sometimes I want to look at that, oh my goodness, right? Sometimes I want to go to a different cleaner area. Okay, and now I'm going to take this 6B and I'm really going to hit some of these areas hard with some value. Now when laying in these values, I'm really thinking about shape now, right? So I'm trying to mimic the shapes that I see of this coming up and down a little bit more. And sort of before I continue, if I look at this, it's sort of like in our midtones, right? We've got our 2s, our 3s, our 4s. We want to have those extremes, the 1s and the 5s, to make it look shiny for the 1s, right? And to give it that depth. If we're just sort of in here only, that's so gray, that's so boring. It's incredibly boring, right? We need everyone to make a well-rounded kind of picture, right? So again, I'm going to take this 6B and I'm going to pump up the volume on some of my darknesses. And this is the scariest part. I see a lot of people who are just too nervous to go dark. They're just like, just feel serious, right? Because it is. Because what if like the 6B stains the paper a little bit, doesn't it? So I can't always get it to be a white color again, a really bright one again. But in this case, I don't really need to, right? In some of these areas, I just have to be very careful that I'm putting it in the right spot and I'm not accidentally like filling in this highlight there with a color that I don't intend. So I'm gonna have to bridge this gap right here I'm just going to throw in the 6B right where the can touches the table. And then I'm going to have to bridge that gap between the 6 and sort of the 2 and the 1 I have with maybe a 4B or a 2B to help me. You're going to notice that I really do favor my 4B pencil. And my 6B, it's sort of like, for me, HB, 4B, and 6B is sort of all I need because of the way I move my hand. I'm able to capture the rest of the values. I do not really use a 2H pencil to do anything for blending. That's my preference. I know a lot of people who really love that. I would use it for the contour line. In this case, the contour line is printed for me here. So I didn't really need to use it for this. Every artist has their preference of what they enjoy, which pencils are their favorite. They're like go-to, right? You sort of learn how to really manipulate a few of them and control your hand. Drawing is all about learning how to see and learning how to control your hand. I wish you guys could see my eyes and how they're moving back and forth, like a tennis match. Most people will spend all their time looking at this, and that's great. You want to make sure that you're knowing what your hand is doing, but 90% of your time should be spent up here, observing and recreating what you see, right? Not on your paper at the bottom. If you really observe this, you'll be fine. Again, for this, I'm not too concerned about what's happening with that pull tab there. I really am looking for the rest of the values, but I don't want you to leave it blank. I want you to consider it, right? And then look at how this is really dark right there, right? And sort of peeks up and pulls around in different ways. So this was one class period. This video is about 34 minutes long right now. And just to end, because I know my bell is going to ring actually, just to end, I want to talk about some of these highlights really quick. I'm going to erase a little bit right now, and I'm going to need to hang this on the wall and look at it, you know, take a break, go to sleep tonight, come back tomorrow. There's my bell. Come back tomorrow and sort of, you know, figure this out. But before we do, I just want to take my large, we'll use this one, use this eraser, and I want to pull up around the sphere because I want you to see it nice and clean. This area in here. So that's going to make it feel really nice and clean. It's like when you put on a suit, right? Or a nice outfit, nice dress or something. You can feel like a lot more cleaned up, like when you take a shower maybe. Right? And then I just want to hit these ones. I know they're not ones on this paper, but I want to sort of grab them up anyway. So I'm going to take this eraser and watch how this starts to make it feel really shiny and three-dimensional by having those ones in some of these key areas. And look, I'm like drawing with the eraser a little bit, right? I'm gonna hit it here, but I'm drawing, I'm pushing hard, and then I'm fading out. I'm gonna push it on that edge. And then I'm gonna sort of color with this eraser really, really lightly. And I can use this one to pull that up a little. Oh, I think I pulled too much, but that's okay. I can go back with more. There, that sort of thing. If you pull up too much, you can always use this little bit of graphite maybe to pull that back. So that's where I'm going to stop right now. I'm going to probably do a little bit more. Hopefully I'll record it. I have a class coming in, so I definitely need to stop. But hopefully that helps you sort of think about this worksheet a little bit better.